Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And hello everybody once again to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen, here for a tiny episode, a mini episode, a little sip of the Juice Box, if you will. But not the sip series, we had that last week. We will discuss that here in a moment. As always, I am, of course, Juice Springsteen. Follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. Subscribe to the show at Juicy Steen on YouTube. Listen to the show on Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, if you do listen to it via Apple, and juicysteen.podbean.com. And on that iTunes and Spotify front, if you listen to the podcast over there, please leave a rating and review. That really helps the show grow. As I said, probably a shorter episode here. I have been out of town over the last few weeks, in and out of town and working, very busy. So, luckily we had the SIP series that came out last week with Conrad Thompson, which was a very fun episode to record. I would like to thank Conrad for that once again. Very gracious with his time. We talked about a lot. It's an audio and video podcast. We talk about his life as a pro wrestling fan, how he grew up, first time watching wrestling or remembering it, first live show, getting into the podcast game, meeting Ric Flair, the life that he lives now, as so surreal as it might seem to a general pro wrestling fan as yours truly, it's just every day for him. And it was really interesting to hear his perspective. He also, we talked about current pro wrestling as well. One of those clips floated around after I posted it the other day. So check it out, audio or video, on YouTube or anywhere you listen to podcasts. The SIP series, Conrad Thompson. Thanks once again to Hey Conrad Thompson. To promote another show, this time I will be on. It was recorded a couple of days ago, but it will air in a few weeks. My return to The Apron Bump with the one and only Kyle from The Apron Bump podcast. Always enjoy chatting with him. He is so fun to talk to. We covered Fall Brawl 1997, one of the earliest shows I can recall in my fandom that I remember really affecting me as a youth. The angle with Ric Flair at the end. But, of course, there's a whole show to cover, and we talk about the ins and outs, and had a great time doing it. Always enjoy talking WCW, anything classic with Kyle from the Apron Bump. He was featured a few weeks ago on the WrestlePalooza and All Out Predictions show. He comes in whenever there's an available slot. So, tit for tat, always have each other's backs. Really cool to have him in the community. Shout out to him. And I will be promoting that appearance on Apron Bump in the future. I do also want to to piggyback off of the SIP series, we will have more SIP series episodes in the future. I will be recording a few later on this year, which will be exciting. Not sure when they'll air. I've got a couple of things lined up, but we're still in the early stages of discussing it. But it's been a successful SIP series year thus far with who we've got. So looking forward to continuing that in the next few months and year. My return to the Shining Wizards podcast will happen in a few days. I believe it will be Monday, October 13th. It will be the Juice Box featured once again. I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit of Crown Jewel. Probably will bring up a little bit of Halloween Havoc as it is October. So looking forward to those guys talking about classic wrestling, current wrestling, anything pro wrestling related, the Juice Box being featured on the Shining Wizards podcast. Those guys are great all-around guys. Follow them on Twitter. Multiple different accounts you can follow, but make sure you follow the main Shining Wizards podcast account there. Looking forward to making another appearance on their live show Monday, October 13th, I believe at 7 or 7:30 p.m. We'll see when that airs. Like I said, this is going to be probably a shorter episode once again, probably 30 minutes or less. But we've got Crown Jewel next week. We'll have that prediction show for you. And I believe after that, we'll have WrestleDream coming up for AEW the week after that. Saturday night's main event, the beginning of November. A lot of stuff coming down the pike. Who knows if we'll have any series episodes in between then or something special out of the sort. Who knows? A lot of stuff going on in the pro wrestling world and, in the real world. So, like I said, I've been out of town a couple of weeks, in and out of town over the last month, give or take. So I've been trying to plug in episodes when I can, trying to get an episode out each week to keep that alive. And that's why this episode's coming out here on a Saturday. Really didn't have much time this week to do much else. Busy once again. So hopefully you guys enjoy this condensed episode. We're going to touch on a few things, AEW, WWE, outside of the ring, and, just some interesting tidbits. Let's actually dive into that. I recently attended Dynamite in person a couple of weeks ago, which is always a great time. Live pro wrestling is always, the way to go. And AEW does it very well. Peterson Event Center. It was, I believe, the last week of September, Wednesday Night Dynamite. Great crowd. I thought the crowd was very energetic. Shout out to Lucas and Loper, Juicebox comrades, Wrestling Nation brethren. They've been featured on this show before for some AEW stuff. Hopefully we can get them on in the future again for some AEW predictions or generalized AEW talk. Those guys are great to talk to. Saw them out there. Also saw a friend of the show, Brian Ghoulish, who had great seats, front row, with his son there. I think that was his son's first ever AEW show, or pro wrestling show for that matter. So it was cool to reconnect with Brian. You can check out Brian and I's Sting retrospective that we put out, I believe, last March, if I'm not mistaken, to coincide with Sting's final match in AEW and pro wrestling as a whole before his tag match, him and Darby versus the Young Bucks at Revolution. So shout out to Brian, Loper, and Lucas, Wrestling Nation, and CSR family. Also like to shout out the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. I dropped in a question this past week, and they actually picked it up and answered it. Talked about the Monday Night War Mattel Elite action figure line, and with the deep cuts that they've had over the last year or two in that said line. I mean, we're talking John Tenta, I'm Not a Shark, I'm a Man, G.I. Bro, Dusty Rhodes as the NWO. Man, so many different unique characters in that particular set. Hardcore Hack as well. So many unique characters in that line. And I was curious as to what they thought could go forth. And they gave some interesting answers as to what they thought could come down the pike for the Monday Night Wars line. So shout out to the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast for answering that question. Matt Cardona, Brian Myers, and Smart Mark Sterling. But back to the AEW Live, kind of got off track there. Great show, really great time. Like I said, always a great time to see AEW Live. I really hope they can get a pay-per-view out here. I know it's not one of their best markets. I know Chicago. They're going to go to St. Louis here for WrestleDream, Long Island. I know Minnesota, LA. They hit Dallas for All In. Florida's always popular for them as well. So it's going to be tough maybe for Pittsburgh to get a pay-per-view, but I'd love to see what the market could do. I think a stacked pay-per-view card in Pittsburgh could work. I went to Dynasty this past April in Philadelphia. So as long as it's within a driving distance, I don't see why I couldn't make one of those shows. So who knows? Here's my push for AEW to have a pay-per-view in Pittsburgh. But speaking of AEW and Dynamite specifically, the following week, this past week, 6th anniversary of AEW. It's pretty crazy, man. I remember sitting down in the first week of October 2019, about a month after and honestly, actually probably 2 weeks after I had moved out to California, the state of California, and I started living out there for about a year. And the first episode of Dynamite was on. It was a surreal feeling knowing that there was a, pretty worthwhile competitor that got a TV deal, had some funding behind it, some wrestlers we knew, and they were going to have a show on TNT with Tony Schiavone as one of the commentators. So, being away from, honestly, my dad, really, because he's the guy that kind of brought me into wrestling. And we would watch Nitro together and all that. So to see, I was like, man, Tony Schiavone on a TNT Pro Wrestling show once again. Just thinking of those times watching Nitro. To see that company go all the way now, 6 years, still going strong, and a lot of changes throughout those 6 years. It's been a wild ride. I'm grateful that they've made 6 years. Nitro made it from 95 to 01, and Dynamite's had more episodes than Nitro now. It's surpassed them, and the years are pretty much there, if not past that, because September 95 to March 01 is a little bit around 6 years. So AEW is passing Nitro in that aspect, and I'd like to see AEW go further. I want to see how far they can truly go. And something that has been a constant yet ever-changing is Andrade. Andrade returns to AEW, taking out Kenny Omega. Joins the Don Callis family, which almost has as many members as the NWO. I mean, Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, Andrade, Okada, Lance Archer. Is it the fake hologram? Just too many members in my book. Yet I think Takeshita's going to get out of there. I think Takeshita and Okada have a date with Destiny in a one-on-one. I think Takeshita has a really high ceiling as a singles babyface in AEW, and I think AEW could lend itself to having another babyface that's ascending. So hopefully that's the case, but Andrade returns to AEW. He was in WWE for so long, goes to AEW in 2021, leaves AEW in 2023, comes back to WWE at the Royal Rumble in 2024, and now he's back in AEW in 2025. So what a run it has been for Andrade. But hey, if the money's there, if the willingness to book Andrade is there, and I think he's a quality talent, why not? I think you could see Andrade in a successful role in the Don Callis family. I really am hoping that he can get a shot in the Continental Classic. Some great matches could be lined up for Andrade there. I mean, clearly a match with Kenny Omega is in the works. So a lot of interesting components for Andrade returning to the AEW fray. And as I discuss some AEW, let's tap into the WrestleDream card as we know it. 3 matches, which 2 world title matches were finally set up this past week on Dynamite, the 6th anniversary show. We've got the AEW Women's World Title match. Chris Statlander defends against Timeless Tony Storm. We've got an I Quit match between Darby Allin and Jon Moxley, which I have already stated. I think it is going to be, it's at least already looking at it on paper, that this I Quit match is the most unpredictable I Quit match since Cena JBL at Judgment Day 2005. That was a match that I, at the time, absolutely could have seen either guy just not quit. Like, I did not buy that either guy would actually quit. JBL quit. Now, in this instance, we're not making predictions yet. I have a feeling Jon Moxley going to quit. Darby would have to be killed, to be quite honest with you. And Jon Moxley did tap out at All In Texas I was there for that. So I could conceivably see Jon Moxley potentially quitting, but we'll get to those predictions in a couple of weeks. And then AEW World Title, Samoa Joe challenges Hangman Adam Page. Could Joe become a 2-time AEW champion? It's very possible. It is very, very possible. I mean, the only guy ever to hold the AEW, Ring of Honor, and TNA World titles, Samoa Joe. And, I mean, this guy, he's still doing it. He's still doing it at a high level. I'm very much looking forward to their match. Those two guys, I don't think that, there's any hatred, true hatred, a lot of sportsmanship, a lot of competitor nature between those two. Joe, hasn't gotten the best of Hangman Adam Page. And I really think that it's going to be, as Sheamus would call, a banger. So WrestleDream in St. Louis, 2 weeks away, October 18th on HBO Max and pay-per-view. That is going to be a fun show. I like their WrestleDream shows. WrestleDream and Dynasty are probably two of my favorite shows that aren't, Double or Nothing or All In. They're big, big shows. I like those shows a lot. I also am fond of World's End. I think because of where it takes place, like at the end of the year. It's just a nice time to have a pay-per-view. I don't know. It's the same time as Starrcade used to be. Like the last week of December, not much going on. Christmas and New Year's, a lot of happiness around that time. And what's better than watching a pro wrestling pay-per-view in the coldest months of the year? So looking forward to WrestleDream. But next week is WWE Crown Jewel in Perth. Yes, Perth. So this is going to be an 8 a.m. start time. Wow. It is going to be brutal. I will try to catch this the best that I can. I will be at work for more than likely the entire show, which is unfortunate because John Cena is going to have his final match in Australia against AJ Styles. We've got 4 matches on the docket thus far. Probably will add one more. Like I said, 8 a.m. Eastern start time. Let's go over the card real quick. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky taking on Asuka, Kairi Sane, the Kabuki Warriors. This has been a very interesting story. Rhea being misted, Io being betrayed by Asuka and Kairi Sane. I think Asuka's the one really, really heading this group. And this should be one hell of a tag match. If they get some time, 12, 15 minutes, I think this could be a really, really strong match between these 4 incredibly talented women. And who knows what's next? Because with these 2 on 2, the next show after this is Survivor Series. And I have a good feeling we could be seeing a potential War Games scenario with any combination of these 4 women, plus either 4 more or 6 more women, depending if it's 5-on-5 or 4-on-4. Additionally, like I said, John Cena, AJ Styles, one more time. God, these two have had great matches in their past. Royal Rumbles, SummerSlams, unbelievable matches. Some of the best matches of John Cena's later career. Probably his last great, truly great feud as a singles guy. And I cannot wait to see how this goes. It's also been reported that AJ Styles will likely retire in 2026. Kind of dispels any rumor that I thought could be out there that AJ Styles could end his career in AEW. It's not to say it couldn't happen, and I would love to see it happen because AJ Styles versus Takeshita, Kenny Omega, Okada, Will Ospreay, Hangman, MJF, Joe again. Could you imagine those two? Kyle Fletcher. The list goes on and on with what AJ Styles could do in AEW. I think the same way with Kevin Owens. But likely will not happen. So either way, Cena and AJ Styles, the clock is ticking on both of their careers in ring. I'm glad we get these guys one more time, one final bout, one-on-one in Perth. Women's Crown Jewel Championship. I did not think they were bringing this back, yet here we are. Raw Women's World Champion Stephanie Vaquer takes on SmackDown Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton. After a very, very questionable ending to the Nia Jax, Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton triple threat on SmackDown, Tiffany retains the championship and now takes on Stephanie Vaquer, whose ascent is on a very fast pace. Not sure who's going to take this. Again, we'll get to predictions next week. But early indications make me think Stephanie Vaquer could take this. I think she is on such a roll, and getting a huge win here, getting the Crown Jewel title would be a really awesome piece to add to the hardware Stephanie Vaquer is quickly building in her trophy case. And lastly, although I do think they're going to add one more match to the card, whether it's Roman and the Usos in a 6-man, something like that. Cody Rhodes, SmackDown Undisputed WWE Champion, takes on Seth freaking Rollins, Raw's World Heavyweight Champion. These two have had quite the feud over the last few years, ever since Cody Rhodes returned to WWE. WrestleMania 38, these two were one-on-one. They had the 3-match bout over that year, the Hell in a Cell, the feud rather, not the bout, the torn pec Hell in a Cell match between the two, one of the best Hell in a Cell matches in recent memory, probably just behind Punk and Drew McIntyre at Bad Blood 2024. But these two guys, very familiar with each other, and the Crown Jewel title's on the line. So who knows who will take it this time. The Crown Jewel champion from last year, Liv Morgan, of course, is out with an injury. But this time, it's really you're awarded the title for the annual match. It's not a congruent, you don't continue it. But it is, you get a new champion. I don't believe you actually defend it. But Cody gets a shot at taking this championship once again. So early indications give me Seth Rollins taking the Crown Jewel Championship. But I do want to bring up something that grinds my gears a little bit regarding this match and the AJ Styles John Cena match. Yes, I know Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins have had quite the history since Cody Rhodes returned to WWE at WrestleMania 38. There is no denying that. However, this match is for a non-really important championship in the grand scheme of things. You get a ring as well, and it's not going to be defended or seen for another year, if not a little less. And I always think that these types of matches could hurt the loser because, kind of bouncing off of Lance Storm, who brought this up to Brian Alvarez a couple of days ago, or a week ago rather, having two championships kind of, demonetizes or demeans the other championship. There's no one title. When you get champion for champion, shouldn't there, I don't know. It doesn't demean it. It's just, when there's one champion, everybody's vying for one title. And it's kind of like in football. When you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. When you have two world champions, you have no world champion because there's two. And now you get one-on-one, and whoever wins, they just get the bragging rights for that night and this little ring. And I have no problem with the match. I really don't. I can't wait to see these guys again, both at the top of their game. But they're getting a huge video package and promotional video packages setting up this match when the match doesn't really mean anything. Neither title's on the line, and I know they have a history. Yet John Cena and AJ Styles, first of all, this match was built on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. John Cena was like, who do you want me to face? Do you want me to face AJ Styles? AJ Styles, would you want to do that? AJ Styles says, yes. Triple H then says, all right, it's made. AJ Styles versus John Cena at Crown Jewel in Perth. And that was it. We already know Cena has a few remaining dates left. Crown Jewel, Survivor Series, 2 episodes of Raw, including one at Madison Square Garden. And then Saturday night's main event, December 13th in Washington, D.C. We'll talk about that in a moment. And these two have a history as well. But no video package, at least yet. Cena's not going to come out there and do anything. AJ Styles did get to drop the beat up John Cena line, which I was thrilled to hear once again, because that was a very prevalent piece of the 2016-2017 feud between AJ Styles and Cena. But the fact that Cody and Seth get a promo package, and I know they're both the world champions, they both have feuded for a while, and blah, 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 blah. John Cena should be arguably the biggest story in WWE right now, but it's not. He got his ass kicked by Brock Lesnar, who we haven't seen since WrestlePalooza. What was that for? And now it's a Twitter-based match. We're just wasting time. First, it was the heel turn that was amazing when it started, and then fell apart by WrestleMania. And it was reversed by SummerSlam, which we got an incredible match. Arguably the best WWE match of the year, Cena and Cody at SummerSlam this past year. And yet we're here with 5 dates left, and it just comes off like they're just trying to make it to the finish line, when in reality there should be a huge story here. Something with drama other than merely the fact that Cena's done. Can't you write something? Can't you come up with something? So to see no video package for that kind of irritated me. But it is what it is, and I'm not really going to go too crazy over it, because we're going to get the match. And, you get Cena for a couple Survivor Series preview Raws, 2 Raws, leading up to Survivor Series, and then nothing until that Saturday night's main event. So let's talk about that. Saturday night's main event, December 13th. This has been confirmed. John Cena's final match ever, Washington, D.C. It's the final, the last time, final match, Saturday night's main event, 42. His 26-year wrestling career will end. Who will take on John Cena? Could it be Gunther? Could it be Carmelo Hayes? Could it be Edge? Could it be Roman Reigns? Could it be The Rock? There's quite a few different options here. And without any sort of framework, it won't be AJ Styles, because he's going to have this match. On Raw, he might have another match at Madison Square Garden. He could have a match the next show, which I think is in Boston on Raw. And then nothing else until Survivor Series. Who knows if he'll have a singles match there, or if he'll do a Survivor Series 5-on-5. I'd love to see a Cena-headed team against the Lesnar team in War Games. That would be incredible. Don't know if we'll see it. And then he's got the Saturday night's main event. There's a name I haven't brought up, and I'm going to bring it up now. And to me, whether it happens in a one-on-one capacity at Survivor Series, or if it happens on Saturday night's main event in Washington, D.C. on December 13th, I think one of the final 2 matches that John Cena has should be against Dirty Dominic Mysterio. As Dom Mysterio was being, out in the audience as an 8-year-old for the custody of Dominic ladder match at SummerSlam 05, John Cena was defending his WWE title against Chris Jericho. Who knows? Maybe Chris Jericho could return from now until then and have that match. Who knows? I think he'll likely return at the Royal Rumble in January in Riyadh, though. Looks great, though. I have seen that. Great shape. But to me, Dirty Dom is the next man up and could be a perfect final opponent for John Cena, or at least one of the last 2 opponents. If he's the last opponent, that already speaks volumes. I think the person to wrestle John Cena's final match, whether win or loss, is going to get a huge, huge respect rub from the business, from the fans, from their peers. The company will clearly see a lot in that, although I'm sure Cena has something to do with who he picks to wrestle last. But Dirty Dominic Mysterio has been getting more reactions than anybody in the company. Even as, arguably the biggest heel in the company, he did the Eddie Guerrero shtick to Rusev this past week on Raw and got an enormous crowd reaction, positive crowd reaction. And I just think whenever the inevitable world title win of a babyface or heel Dom Mysterio happens, it might go down as one of the greatest moments in the history of WWE. So I think the future is bright, and I think the future is Dominic Mysterio. If it's not the Saturday Night's Main Event match, though, and Cena doesn't wrestle at War Games, where is Survivor Series taking place? The 619. And sure, Rey Mysterio could be a great little opponent for John Cena, but we all know Dom would be the guy to step up and have a great match with Cena. And the crowd would be kind of split, if not all out rooting for Dominic Mysterio. And I think an environment like that would be incredibly fun for John Cena to work with, because at that point, when after that he'll have one more match, I think he's going to embrace everything. He's going to embrace being the uber heel in a hostile territory like he did in Toronto or Hammerstein. Or he'll be given, the ability to take on one of the biggest heels ever and get celebrated like the arguable biggest babyface outside of Hulk Hogan that WWE has ever seen. With one match after that, I feel like he will embrace the love or the hate. And I really hope Dominic Mysterio and John Cena lock horns and give the fans one opportunity to see a spectacle like that. So really hoping for that. That's my little spiel on the John Cena retirement of it all. Like to close out the show. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. It's been a crisp 30 minutes plus here, but I've actually tackled quite a bit. I want to run down the top 10 of the PWI 500, which recently came out. And this is a very interesting list every year. As a kid of the 90s, I loved getting the PWI magazines, reading the Bill Apter stuff, the rankings in the back, the PWI 500, the Fantasy Warfare, live TV reports, all that. It was always in kayfabe, and it was very entertaining, and that's really the only way you could get anything, because now it's all online and blah, blah, blah. The criteria the PWI creates, though, always creates controversy, because when they put out the list, they even say this is a kayfabe-based list. So if you're winning titles and you're defending titles and you're winning a lot of matches and you're always at high points of the card and you're on PLEs or pay-per-views and you have a great year from the time frame that they dictate, which is end of July to the beginning of August, year to year, then you're going to be ranked high. It's a great barometer for fans to kind of see where their favorites go. It's amazing to see independent wrestlers rise through the ranks, even if they're number 500. In the 400s, it's like, look where I am, look how far I've grown. And it gets exposure to wrestlers you may have never heard before. And I do think overall it is a net positive for the pro wrestling industry because it creates buzz. And it's subjective buzz. They're picking their list. That's the list. They're not putting out a tweet and changing it every other day because it's fluid. This is their list. They have been doing this particular list since, I believe, 1991. So this is something they've been doing for quite a long time. And I love it, and I'm going to go through the list and tell you if I agree or disagree briefly with each person. Number 10, Will Ospreay. Very tough to disagree with here. He's had a hell of a year. Some wins, some losses. Now he's hurt. He's been hurt a little bit. So I can see where he is that 10th spot. Of course, great wrestler in AEW. Mystico, quite honestly, haven't seen a lot of his work. His match with MJF was incredible, though, on Dynamite. I'm going to take their word for it. 9 seems pretty good. Seth Rollins has had a great year. He's world champion now. I think next year, as long as he sticks with everything, he really could be number one. I mean, he has done so much over the past few years. He was number one in 2015. He was number one in 2019 and number one in 2023. And I think if Seth Rollins continues the path he's on, winning that WrestleMania match helped him this year, but continuing from SummerSlam on as champion, if he continues this all the way through next year, he could easily be in the top 3, if not top 1. So I like where he's at with 8. Swerve Strickland at 7. Again, hurt in the latter parts of this particular time frame, yet incredible matches all throughout the AEW pay-per-view timeline. Can't disagree with that. Jey Uso, number 6. I honestly would have put him at number at least 5, winning the Royal Rumble when I seemingly was one of the only people to predict that. Winning the world title at WrestleMania off Gunther with his own move helped him a lot. However, he did lose it kind of abruptly, so maybe that's where I would agree that he could be 6. Another one I'm not really familiar with, so I'm not going to even attempt. Hiroki Goto. I'm going to assume they know what they're talking about. Of course, New Japan Pro Wrestling is where he resides. But Hangman Adam Page, crazy year for Hangman. Ends up winning the world title. Amazing matches with Swerve Strickland. Got the better of him. Wins the world title right at the end of the time frame. Can't disagree with that at all. Gunther, number 3. Man, retires Goldberg. World champion. Great matches across the board. Can't really disagree with that either. Jon Moxley. This is an interesting one because people are sick of Jon Moxley, and I, to an extent, am too. Yet, you can't deny that he was at the top of the card at almost every AEW pay-per-view, defending the title in high-profile matches every single month. Led a group that ran roughshod throughout AEW and did a lot to retain his championship and do what he had to do to maintain that status. So I could see him being number 2. But back-to-back only happened a few other times, I believe, with John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Bret Hart, the only other 3 to do it. Cody Rhodes is unequivocally number 1 again, back-to-back. World champion. He won it back at SummerSlam. He had a great run throughout the past year as champion, losing it to John Cena at WrestleMania, of course. But everything else, he's done such a great job, stayed healthy, and he's QB1 for a reason. So that's your PWI 500 as told by Juice Springsteen. I hope you guys enjoyed that little rundown of that little list. And this is pretty much the end of the Juice Box for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this condensed episode, if you will, a little condensed juice for your weekend. But like I said, very busy these days, and work's getting kind of hectic. I was out of town, like I said, and we had the Conrad Thompson episode. Go check that out, audio and video on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'll promote the Apron Bump once again. I'll be on there for the Fall Brawl 97 episode later on this month. Going to be on the Shining Wizards podcast, October, I believe, 13th, which is a couple of Mondays from now. During their live show, 7 o'clock, 7:30, somewhere in that time, p.m. Eastern, Shining Wizards podcast. Check them out on Twitter. And we'll have Crown Jewel predictions next week, WrestleDream predictions the following week. And then, of course, as always, check me out on Twitter at Juicy Steen. You never know where I'm going to pop up. Audio, video, just typing out stuff. You never know. Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. Juicebox, you can listen to this show on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com. Of course, on YouTube at Juicy Steen and on Spotify. And if you listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via iTunes, rate and review the show. Do what you can. Leave a great review. Give it 5 stars, please. It does help the show grow. But, as always, I am Juice Springsteen. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the football weekend. Steelers on a bye. They're 3-1. Looking pretty good. Who knows? It's a little early, but hey, plan the parade, baby. As for me, though, I'm Juice Springsteen. Crown Jewel predictions next week, WrestleDream the following week, and everything else, who knows? But all I know for sure is that you'll get to tune in next week for another edition of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.